Hello friends, AmyR here with Prairie Paper and Ink. More Christmas cards. This one with something very exciting, for me anyway. I got a wonderful email the other day from Karen F, and she figured this out, and she doesn't have a blog or a YouTube or anything. So she emailed me to tell me about it, and I was like, mind blown. So exciting. So y'all know I like to do flat shaker cards. I reuse like the packaging that stamp sets and cardstock, etc. come in. And what she figured out was that you can hot foil on it. Not just your cardstock, like on the packaging. I never in a million years would have thought of that. So I'm giving her credit regardless. She said I didn't have to, but I'm not going to be all like, look how smart I am, because I never would have tried this. We have like heat resistant acetate, like Simon has heat resistant acetate and other companies do as well. And you can foil on that, of course. That specific heat resistant acetate you can also heat emboss on. So with this, I wouldn't even attempt heat embossing. I'm pretty sure a heat tool would act like full on melt this. However, it does handle hot foiling. Because I thought I would try it out. This is me filming my literal very first attempt because I was like, let's just see if it works for me too. So I have some packaging that whatever came, like a stamp or something, and I'm cutting it in half because, you know, there's two pieces, two sides, whatever. And I have my CZ Design Mary hot foil plate and my Spellbinders Glimmer hot foil system all set up. It's plugged in. You plug it in, turn it on, and it will heat up until it says platform ready. And then my camera wasn't recording this part, but I'll show it again. So I have my hot foil plate face side up on the system. Then my hot foil, my Glimmer hot foil, pretty side facing the plate. Then my piece of plastic packaging. And then for my shims, I have like both of the Spellbinders little shims, like the plastic shim and the spacer plate. And I have two cardstock shims in here. This is another thing that people will have to kind of experiment and see what works. But because the little packaging is so thin, obviously a lot thinner than cardstock, I found two cardstock shims worked perfectly for me. So after it was done heating up, I ran it through my platinum die cut machine, peeled off this packaging, and success. I'm so excited. Regardless of what you're foiling on, there's something that just that feeling of like you accomplish something when you peel off the foil and it works. But the fact that it works on packaging, I swear this is a massive game changer because I was planning on doing flat shaker cards, like way more of them because, you know, they're fun. But to foil on them now, oh, yes. You guys are going to see a lot more hot foiling. I mentioned in other videos, like I was having trouble with hot foiling for a long time. I wasn't getting good results. And again, it's one of those things where you just need to experiment. My issue before was my shims weren't correct. Like when I'm foiling on cardstock, I'm finding now that I don't need the two shims, those two little pieces of cardstock. I just need one. Like it was a very simple fix that it took me forever to figure out. But figured it out, doing more hot foiling. And now with this, it works on the packaging. Like, I don't know. It just works perfectly, really. The other thing I want to note, so I showed how I did it again properly the second time, let it heat up, do its thing, run it through my machine, and then I peel the foil off, and it's just so fabulous. So with this, if there are little areas that are overfoiled, like little spots, you know, of foil that press in that aren't supposed to be there, with this, the easiest thing I found to actually remove is my fingernail. Because you can't really use, you know, a sand eraser on this packaging because it'll scratch it up. And a regular eraser doesn't work, those sorts of things. But I found just gently scraping away the little areas with my fingernail. Perfect. And we're good to go. So, yeah, I was kind of insanely excited. Hence me like, whoa. Because it's fun. Even though, and of course, this is a hard thing to film because the packaging's reflective, the foil's reflective, all of that. So I foiled those two pieces, set them aside. For my backgrounds for this, I wanted to keep them more simple and sort of solid. Because again, you're working with a very reflective surface with the acetate. You want that foil to show up. So I just took some solid cardstock. This is Simon's Green Apple cardstock. And the Just Trees stencil by CZ Design. And then I'm using Simon's new Perfection green ink with a blending brush And I'm just blending over these trees. Again, simple. You know, I don't often do very traditional Christmas colors in my Christmas card series. I don't know why. I just don't. I don't know. I'm so drawn to like all the non-traditional colors. But for this one, I was really in the mood. I was like, I need to do at least one video with, you know, the red and green and some gold, you know. So that's what I did. So I blended that over the one piece, and then I repeated the process because, as always, if I've got all the supplies out and all the things, why not make more than one? So I was just taping the stencil to the cardstock with a bit of my Spellbinders tape, and then just blending that ink with one of Simon's blender brushes right over the stencil. And it will smooth out even more like as it dries, but again, it's not going to be noticeable. Doesn't need to be a perfect blend. And I know, shocker, I don't add any splatter or anything to this background. But that's again because I want that hot foil, the shaker part of it, to take, you know, center stage, and splatter would have been useless. Like, trust me, when it's all done, it wouldn't have mattered. So I did all of that. And then for my card bases, I'm going to use that stencil again. I just masked off where the score line was. And I'm going to use a lighter shade of ink this time because I want to keep it a little bit easier to write over. So I chose the lighter shade, which is Simon's Celery Positively Saturated ink, and blended that over the same stencil. I had cleaned off the stencil so that I'm not picking up the darker ink with my brush. And then just tape the stencil again to the inside of the card base and quickly blended over it with that lighter green ink, and then repeated the process with card base number 2. So just reused my little post-it tape there, taped off where the fold line is so that I don't get any ink past the fold line, and then tape the stencil back into place, and then just ink blend that green ink over top of this stencil. Just love. Seriously. These came together, so I was having so much fun. I have fun with all the cards I make, but you know, when things work, especially the hot foiling, because I have just off and on struggled with it over the last however long, because, you know, just is. And now that it's just been working more and more for me, I'm just like, this is great, because I have a massive amount invested in, you know, the machine and the Glimmer hot foil and the plates and all the things. So you guys are going to see, like I said, you guys are going to see lots more hot foiling. I'm just loving it. So set all that aside. For my sentiments, I'm using the Simon Says Stamp XL Christmas Greetings set. Picked out a couple stamps from that set, and I'm going to heat emboss them onto this red cardstock. So I put the cardstock in my MISTI, used my anti-static powder tool. Going to ink up those stamps with clear embossing ink, stamping them a couple times each time to make sure I get full coverage of the ink. And then I'm going to coat that with Simon's Detail White embossing powder. And then once all these sentiments are covered with that, and I'm kind of like off frame, but I was just using a paintbrush to kind of remove those few little strays of embossing powder, you know, that just no matter what like to cling. So I removed that and then melted this with my heat tool. So once those are melted, I'm going to use the coordinating wafer dies to die cut these. I've said this in a million videos. I love having coordinating wafer dies for my sentiments because it makes my life just a million times easier. I don't have to worry about like lining things up, you know, making sure they're stamped straight. It's like, as long as they're stamped, they're good, because then I can die cut them and they're great. And this was perfect for this card because it's like, oh, then I can just adhere one to the inside, adhere one to the outside. Life is good. So use the coordinating wafer dies for both of those little sentiments. Just tape them into place so that the wafer dies don't move or shift when I run them through my die cut machine. And then die cut all of these sentiments. And then for my card front, I took these green panels and I trimmed them down. I could have done like a full A2, like edge to edge shaker card, but I wanted to add some matting because I wanted to bring in more of the red. So I trimmed down these panels. I trimmed like 1/4 inch off each side. So they end up being 5 inches by like 3 3/4. And then once those are trimmed down, now I'm going to make my flat shaker with those fabulous foiled pieces. Love. So I chose larger pieces specifically because I wanted the leeway so I could center this, you know, on my card. And then I'm going to tape it into place, you know, do a little bit of fiddling so that I get it centered where I want it, Once that's in place, I'm going to trim off all the excess with my big Tim Holtz scissors. I've said this in a lot of videos. The Tim Holtz scissors are must-haves. These are the big ones. These are the shears. I use these all the time. Love. I have an extra pair that I keep in my garage because I use them for like trimming shrubs and things. You know, like they are a workhorse. They're wonderful. Same with the other sides. You guys see me use the little baby tiny snips. I use those right here actually with the adhesive. I use these to trim adhesive and foam tape and all that kind of stuff because they're Teflon coated. So there's a little like side ad for the Tim Holtz scissors. Anyway, I'm using red line tape, adhering it to the very edge to the back of this panel, and then folding up that packaging right over it. Red line tape is a great one. Simon just released this last month, something like that. Super, super strong. My only peeve with red line tape is the red backing is like staticky. It just clings to everything. But this adhesive is the strongest adhesive. The other option, and I've shown that in videos, is score tape. It's not as strong and it does tear easier, so you don't have to like cut and fiddle, but it just depends on your personal preference. I use either or interchangeably. They both are great. The only real difference is the red line is stronger. So, anyway, folded up the 3 edges. And then on the 4th edge, I just put the red line tape into place, but I'm leaving that edge open so I can fill my little card front here with my sequins and whatnot. And of course, the sequin mix I chose isn't available anymore. I checked that after I was done everything and I was like, of course. But I will link to a few other options that you can kind of mix and match and use what you got, you know, or create your own little mix if you have tons. Like I literally have lifetime supplies of sequins, and this is also why I love flat shakers now, because I'm using a lot more of them instead of just hoarding them. So same thing with the glitter. This is this beautiful Studio Katia glitter. It's the Gold Fever, and I don't think it's available anymore either. But again, I'll link to something similar because just adding chunky glitter or just any glitter to my flat shakers is awesome because these keep it contained. Whereas your traditional shaker type cards with the foam tape and everything, adding glitter, you're just asking for trouble, you know, because the glitter just seeps between the foam tape no matter what you do, and you get it everywhere. Whereas with the flat shakers, it's contained. So it's another way to use up the dry glitters. If you're like me, same thing, have tons of it and it's just sitting there. Yeah. So filled this with the sequins and the glitter, and now you can see why I wanted like a fairly solid, simple background, because like the reflection and the foil and then the shaker mix is kind of the like main focus. So I did that, and then to adhere that little Christmas sentiment, I just used some glossy accents. Again, you just want a good, strong adhesive to adhere to this packaging. So got that adhered into place, repeated the process with the second card front, and then I put more red line tape around the perimeter on the back of this panel. Again, just to make sure it is like solidly glued down, so ain't nothing falling out, all that stuff. And then I put a bit, just kind of being redundant, but I put a bit of craft tacky glue down the center just to make sure it stays, you know, adhered, flat, good. And then I matted this with that same red cardstock, hence me trimming it down because I wanted that red border. I thought that would look fabulous. And then I'm going to adhere this to my card base and adhere that other sentiment to the inside of the card. So get that adhered into place, and then I can pop the card front shaker onto my card base. No foam tape, no bulky dimension, and yet we've got glitter and hot foil and flat shaker, and seriously, you guys, these were so fun. So I waited overnight so I could film this last bit in natural light because, of course, my camera, like my lights and stuff, were completely reflecting. So that's why the color changed. This is like natural light, so I don't have my lights on, so you guys can kind of see things a little bit better. Because again, my camera's freaking out at the reflection and the foil and all this stuff. But this was fun. So thank you, Karen, for the email. Like, it's like I could almost say, like, you changed my life. And I hope I changed you guys too, and you'll have like some fun with this, because I'll have more coming, trust me. This was a ton of fun, and it was so easy. And now I have even more uses of this massive pile of packaging that I've been saving for flat shaker cards. So, as always, I'll have a link below the video to my blog post. I'll link to all the supplies I used and the alternates and all that stuff. So you can check that out below if you're interested. Thank you all so much for watching and subscribing and thumbs upping and commenting. And I will see you all very soon in the next video. Bye.